Okay, welcome back to the final video. This is example 5. So we've been doing quite a few of these problems. The steps are always the same. So let's go ahead and dive right into it by reading the problem. A student wants to make PbCl2, which is lead 2 chloride, from sodium chloride and lead 2 nitrate according to the equation below. So this is the balanced chemical equation. This is our recipe, and they're showing us how they're making lead 2 chloride from sodium chloride and lead 2 nitrate. If the student weighs out 12.75 grams of NaCl, how many moles of NaCl did the student use? All right, there's a lot of information here. I got an equation, I got what a student wants to do, whatever. But we're doing conversion here. So let's go ahead and focus on the part that has the question. How many moles of NaCl did the student use? Moles did the student use? So I'm looking for moles. That's what I'm trying to find. And what am I given here? Well, the number value in terms of the problem is the 12.75 grams. So I'm given my mass. Remember, grams is a unit for mass. Now you may be thinking, well, there's numbers up here. I was given this information too. You were, but for these problems where we're converting from grams of NaCl to the moles of NaCl, we don't need the balanced chemical equation, right? Because the only information that we need to convert from grams of NaCl to moles of NaCl is the how much does 1 mole of NaCl weigh, right? So that would be the molar mass. That's the only information that we need here. So this is just sort of superfluous information. So don't let that trip you up. Okay. So my plan is to go from, I'm given my mass, I'm going from mass to moles. Now I need to set up my conversion factor. So my conversion factor for these problems, mass to moles, will be 1 mole of NaCl is equal to whatever the molar mass is of NaCl. So let's go ahead and calculate that quickly underneath here. So to get the molar mass of NaCl, I'm going to look in the periodic table. NaCl is made up of 1 sodium, which is 22.99 grams per mole, and then 1 chlorine, which is 35.45 grams per mole. So I'm going to add these two numbers, the 22.99 and the 35.45. All right, when I do that math, I get the number to be 58.4. Now remember, this is my scratch work, so I'm not putting any units here, but in my conversion factor, I need my units. So 1 mole of NaCl is equivalent to 58.44 grams of NaCl. Okay. So with that being said, we are going to write down what we're given. We're going to set up our work, which is always the given over 1 times your conversion factor to get your find, right? So I'm given 12.75 grams. My units of mass are in grams, so I don't need to change that. Yay. And then the next thing I want to do is set up my conversion factor. So I'm starting off with, or I'm given the grams of NaCl. I don't want to keep that. I want to cancel that. So if I want to cancel it, I need to make sure that in my conversion factor, grams of NaCl, it's in the opposite position. So I'm going to put grams of NaCl here. And then which part of my conversion factor has grams of NaCl? Oh, there it is, 58.44. What's left here is the 1 mole of NaCl. So 1 mole of NaCl. Okay, so now I have my setup. All right. I'm going to continue this on underneath to do the rest of my work since I'm a little crunched for space here. So remember, when you are multiplying fractions, you multiply straight across. So what we have in the numerator will be 12.75 times 1. I'm just going to focus on the numbers right now just for my math part. And I'll come back to units later. And the denominator, I have 1 times 58.44, which is just 58.44. And that, when I do the math, 12.75 divided by 58.44, I get 0.0 0.282. .2 0.2182. And the units, I forgot to do this fun part. Oops. Whoosh, whoosh. My grams of NaCl cancel out, and the units that I have left are moles of NaCl. All right, so that's my answer here. All right, so let's answer choice C. Now I want you to take a look at this. Since this was a multiple choice question, there are going to be some tricky answers in here. All right, so we know this is the correct answer because we did the work. But let's look at where the other numbers came from and why they don't work. So this first one, 2.000 moles. Essentially that's 2, right? The zeros on the end are just for sig fig. So essentially that number is 2. So where do you think they got the 2 from? Well, they got it probably from the coefficient of NaCl. So in this problem, they're asking us not how much does the recipe call for. Remember, the balanced chemical equation is our recipe, and so that's saying that we need 2 moles of NaCl and 1 mole of lead 2 nitrate to make 1 mole of lead 2 chloride, right? So this is our recipe. They're not asking us how much the recipe calls for, but they're asking us how much did the student use if they weighed out 12.75 grams. So that's where they got this from. This one's from the coefficients, and it's not the answer for this one. The 12.75 moles, well, where'd they get that from? Well, they just took the number for grams and then made it into moles. Well, you can't do that, right? Because the only way you can do that if 1 mole of NaCl is equal to 1 gram of NaCl, if the two numbers are the same, right? So it's 1-to-1 ratio. That's not the case for NaCl, so we can't do that either. And then finally, this 4.583 moles most likely came from an incorrect setup. So if we set this problem up incorrectly, so incorrect, and we had 12.75 grams of NaCl, and then in our conversion factor, instead of putting grams of the 58.44 grams of NaCl on the bottom, if we put that number on the top, okay, we may get some number that's close to this, and then they probably just moved the decimal over, so made it like 4.5. So if you were to plug that into your calculator and you got some wonky number and you're like, oh wait, that number kind of looks like that, just that the decimal's off, maybe you would have selected that one. So when you have a multiple choice like this, it's always a good idea to sort of do the work, set it out, solve it, and then check the answer that is correct. So you don't get tripped up by just looking and saying, oh, that number matches NaCl, or oh, that number matches a gram, that works, or oh, this number kind of makes sense when it really doesn't. All right, so that is it for this video. I hope you found it helpful, and the next part are some practice problems for you to do. So you're going to do the practice problems and check your answer. All right, have a quality day.